Happy Thursday, everyone. So today I thought I would touch on some of my favorite moments in National Sweepstakes Convention history. As most of you know, the National Sweepstakes Convention is held once a year. This year it happens to be in fabulous Las Vegas. It's actually the second time that Vegas has hosted the convention, and Donna, who is the host, hosted it last time. Forget how many years ago. It's been about maybe 7 years, 8 years, something like that. But anyways, we'll be returning to Las Vegas next week for the convention. And I thought I would run down some of my personal favorite moments of convention. Maybe if you're watching this, you've never been to a convention, maybe you'll think about going to next year's convention, which is in Little Rock, Arkansas. I will say that the whole thing about going to a sweepstakes convention for a lot of us is you don't know a lot of people who enter sweepstakes and win sweepstakes on a regular basis, but it's nice to get a few hundred of these people all together at once to share ideas, share stories, and they all have just amazing stories. So a lot of you guys watch my channel because you want to hear some of the winning stories and some of the trips I've won and experiences and things like that. At a convention, there's a lot of people just like me who have had similar or the same experiences, or just as many experiences. It's really just amazing how many stories come out of conventions. Let alone, I personally think I learn something every year, whether it's just having a one-on-one conversation with a member, or someone shows me a different way of doing something, a way that maybe I didn't think of before. So I do think they're helpful in that aspect. This is my 15th convention, and my 15th convention in a row. I haven't missed since going the first time in Minneapolis, Minnesota. That was my very first one. And I showed up there and I didn't know anyone. iWin wasn't even on the radar at that point. I just knew that I enjoyed entering sweepstakes. I had been doing it consistently for a year or two. And this sounded like something interesting that I kind of wanted to go and see. And that's where I got to hear Steve speak. Steve, who some of you guys have seen the video that I've done an interview with Steve, but he spoke at this convention, and he got up there and said that he had won almost 200 trips. And I couldn't fathom that. At the time, I had won a handful, 5, 6 trips, maybe something like that. And I couldn't imagine somebody could even come close to winning a couple hundred trips. So that was really eye-opening for me and really motivating for me. So that was really a big moment. And he used the quote that I've used many times, as luck plus skill equals winning. And there is an element of luck and chance to sweepstakes in general, but there's a skill to it. There's a skill to it in finding and understanding what to enter, why to enter, how to enter, so that you do win more than most people. There's also a consistency to entering. You need to enter consistently. Anyone can get lucky on any given day, sure, but in general, the people who are more consistent, who put the effort in, they're going to win more in the long run. It's just the nature of odds and statistics and numbers. Let's talk about some of these conventions. So I have heard some great speakers, and I will say I've spoke at most of the conventions over the last, 10 years. And I am speaking at this year's convention, and I am honored that the people attending want to hear from me, because they see me on social media all the time, let alone that a host will ask me to speak. A few times I've emceed, I've been asked to do that from time to time. Anyone who speaks at a convention or MCs a convention, these people are all doing it voluntarily. They're not being paid to do it. They're not, there's no real incentive to do it. It's more they've been asked and they're doing it. But I've always considered it to be an honor to even be asked, because that shows that somebody respects your knowledge and your ability to teach people or show people or entertain people. Now, my talks have varied on from educational to fun to trips. I personally prefer listening to winning stories. I think they're motivating. So I pick some of my favorite speakers that I've heard over the years. And, I can definitely say, obviously, Stephen sharing that story was one of the most motivating to me because it really kind of defined what I've done in sweepstakes over the years, and I've always given him credit for that. And I'm only going to use first names out of respect to some of the people. If you've attended conventions, you've seen these people. Some of them I've done iWin interviews with. In fact, the next three people I mentioned, two of them have iWin interviews up on YouTube that I've done. The first one being Jason. Jason, it's why he enters sweepstakes. He also is big into getting on TV game shows and hats, and he had a lot of success with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. In fact, some of you may remember, like I remember watching his episode before I ever knew him because it was such a popular episode. And if you watch the interview, you'll understand what I mean. But his grandmother was involved, and he parlayed that to going on Oprah and a whole bunch of different things that really kind of changed. I won't say changed his life, but made a big impact on his life over the coming years. But a very entertaining person, and it was a very entertaining speech. It was actually last time we were in Las Vegas. Some of you know Velma. I've done an interview with Velma. She was recently on the Price is Right. She is always entertaining, a great storyteller. I always enjoy listening to her, and she spoke at numerous conventions over the years. And then also on my list is Valerie, and Valerie won one of the trips that I'm still jealous of, and she won it from MasterCard, and it was a trip to the 8 wonders of the world, and she was able to split this up over 3 years and do like a 3-week trip each year. And if you've heard the story, you know it's amazing, and the photos and the places she got to go and the people she shared it with. She shared it with different people in her life because different people went on different trips. But just one of those amazing wins. So I've really enjoyed hearing that, and we've heard about that. Favorite hotel where it's been hosted. I have to give it up to Arizona, who hosted last year, and then a few years before that. Arizona, the Hotel One was a great price. It was hot. It was Arizona. It was in the desert in the middle of summer, just like Vegas is this year. But that gives you a much better rate at the hotel. But the resort was really cool. It was huge. And the rooms were ginormous, and just a beautiful place to host a convention. And some people were concerned about getting around, but they had golf carts that would come and pick you up right at your door and bring you there. So I really enjoyed that hotel. When we're talking just the hotel specifically, I thought it was great. Probably giving a nod to Boston. I think it was a Sheraton in Boston, and that was a really nice hotel as well. Favorite mini. There are such things as mini conventions. What's a mini convention? It's not really national. It's usually held for 1 or 2 days. It's usually on a much smaller scale. But many of you know that Maryland used to host every year, and every year it would sell out in a matter of hours. It was amazing. And they always put on a really good show. I'd love them to do it again, but again, you have to have people willing to do it, volunteer to do it. It takes a ton of work to run a convention. So realize that if you go to a convention and something's not perfect, have some respect and have some compassion from the hosts. They're not doing it because they want you to have a bad time. Things go awry, just like anything else. You can have a wedding and it rains, or something's wrong with catering or something else. These problems do happen. So, but Maryland did a great job. I have to also give a nod to Michigan. Michigan would hold a 1-day event every single year. The late Al Sayward would host this yearly, and a lot of people traveled from out of town. I used to drive over when I lived in Ohio and go to it every year. But even when I moved to Florida, I would continue to go to it because it was just such a great event. And he was just a wonderful person who just loved sharing his love of sweepstakes and candy. Some of you guys know he was called the Candy Man, and prizes, and just, I mean, you know, he just enjoyed it, and it showed. So anyone who met Al was fortunate to over the years. Just a wonderful event. So it's an event that I'll always miss. Probably the biggest surprise as far as like a location, everyone always wants it in certain locations. And what I always tell people, that's great. Like Nashville comes up constantly. Everyone wants Nashville. But nobody stepped up to host in Nashville or found a hotel that's reasonably priced in Nashville as the meeting space. Could it be done? Sure, but somebody actually has to do it. Without somebody willing to do it, it's just an idea. But a lot of times you host where you live. If I host, I'd probably have it in Orlando. If you live in St. Louis, you'd probably have it in St. Louis. And they're not. They might not be on your radar as a place that you'd want to go, but might be place you would never go if it wasn't for a convention. And that brings me to Fort Wayne, Indiana. It was one of the first conventions I ever went. It was the first one. I was a vendor. iWin was still not in place yet. iWin started in the Atlanta convention a year or so later. But Fort Wayne was just a wonderful event. Unfortunately, the person hosting, their husband, had passed away during the process of doing all this, which made it that much more challenging for her. But she still pulled it off. Great convention. We got to go to the Tin Caps game, which was a local minor league baseball team. A lot of times they combine a baseball game. It's just a nice, easy event in the evening that you can get a group rate, get some tickets, and go. So a lot of times I've done that as well. But yeah, it was a really interesting little convention. My favorite convention overall probably was Atlanta. And Atlanta, in my opinion, combined so many good elements. It's easy to get to. The cost was reasonable. The hotel was great. There was tons of people. There's like 700 people, 800 people, something like that. There's tons of things in Atlanta. There was, at the time to do. You had the Georgia Aquarium was still new, which is still a great place to visit. The Coke Museum, Centennial Park. There's all kinds of things that were really within walking distance. They did a baseball game. A lot of us went to the Atlanta Braves game one night. So definitely was good. Probably my second favorite was Orlando, and same thing. It was so big. I thought it was well run. I don't even know how many people were in Orlando. It was bigger than Atlanta. It was the last really big convention we had. I think that was like 10 years ago. And Orlando was actually the first time I ever spoke. And I was asked to speak. At the time, I had won the grand prize with Castro Motor Oil to be their soccer correspondent for a full year. And so it involved 4 trips, including 3 weeks for the World Cup in Brazil in 2014. One of those once in a lifetime type things. I don't know if I'll ever fully appreciate what I got to see and do, and traveling with the players' families. And I mean, it was a ton of travel. We did the exact same travel the team did. So we were based in San Juan. I'm sorry, not San Juan, Sao Paulo, Brazil. And then we flew to the different locations for the game. And after the game, we flew back to Sao Paulo. In fact, we had a hotel room that we had the whole time we were there. And so even when we left, we didn't check out, even though we were gone for a couple days. Amazing experience. I got to share it with my best friend who I grew up playing soccer with. So we got to do all these things that nobody had access to, and met a lot of really cool people. A lot of the players' families that you would eat breakfast with and dinner with and travel with. So just one of those once in a lifetime. And from a soccer fan, there's just nothing better. But I spoke in Orlando about this, and it brings me up to one of my favorite moments. So I'm going to talk about my favorite moments. I didn't really put my favorite moments in order because I think they're all super cool. But my favorite moments was I had just had knee surgery, and the hotel was big, so moving around was challenging for me. And by the end of the day, after being on my knee all day, I was tired, sore. So I would go back and ice it, and I get back to the room, and there's this little, gift basket of like just drinks and snacks and, a thank you card thanking me for speaking. And I always thought that was really, really cool because I had never spoke before. And not everyone does this, and it's not to say that hosts have to do anything because they don't for the people. And a lot of them don't, some do, some don't, but that's up to them. But this was a really cool gesture, and they did it for the speakers at the convention that year. And so you had it sitting in your room when you arrived that night. So I really appreciate that, and that's always been something I've remembered. North Carolina in 2018, one of my favorite moments. My brother had passed away literally just over a month before that. So I really almost didn't even want to go. It was a challenging time for me, not having him around, but also everyone knew, and I just didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to answer questions about it. I appreciated the people who came up to me, but it's like, you start to move past it, and while you're never going to forget, it's you just don't. It was too fresh. I didn't want to relive it. And for whatever reason, one night, Donna, who was the host of the convention this year, her and I got this crazy idea to do this whole story about these lucky rocks and found in Lake Winnebago, and this Irish guy who found them, and they were lucky. And we made this whole story up in these flyers, and came up with these. Some of you guys know what I'm talking about because I still have one. Lucky rocks. And so we sold these for $5. There was only a handful of them. So you only get so many. They're limited quantities. And people lined up to get these rocks, to be the first one to pick up their lucky rock. The stories that have come out of the people who bought these lucky rocks is just crazy. One of the people won the big money. It was either $5,000 or $10,000 at the convention, who had a lucky rock. Another person had been entering sweepstakes for 20 years, never won a car, and a couple months later won a car. Thanks to their lucky rock. Now, I'm not trying to tell you lucky rocks or hocus pocus or pixie dust or any of that works. But it's interesting when you believe in something and you buy into it, what can happen. So, and it goes back to having a positive attitude. That I do believe in. I think that's important, to expect to win. I don't enter sweepstakes hoping to win. I enter sweepstakes because I expect to win. Another one of my favorite moments was Atlanta. They were the first convention to give away a car. I can't remember if they had the car in the lobby or not. I feel like Orlando did. But that was going to be the big prize. And so they give this car away, and you had a choice. You could take the car, or you could take a cash option. It was like $15,000 or something like that. And the person took the cash option. And then they announced they're actually giving away 2 cars. Room goes crazy. Do it again. Person takes cash option again. Well, come to find out, they're actually giving away 3 cars. They're the only convention that's ever done it, and it was just one of those moments. No one, it was a big deal. They took a shot to do something out of the box and different and give away a car. No convention had ever done this before, and so to see it happen live, and not just 1 but 2 but 3 cars is pretty amazing. I always like to remind people that 2 of the 3 winners, I think, were IWIN members, if I remember correctly. That happens a lot. I mean, nowadays when you go to a convention, 80-90% or more is people are IWIN members, which I'm very grateful for. And it's really cool to see people wearing the shirts and all the great designs. Every year people surprise me with what designs they come up with, what they've made. Last year somebody had a hat with all my sayings. The one year people actually dressed up as me and Roscoe. I thought that was, I mean, that was amazing. One year people had Sweeper University gowns on, just very creative things. It's very humbling, very cool, awesome. I love seeing it. I look forward to it in Vegas. So, surprise me in Vegas. Come up to me, show me what you did. It's always cool. Um, um, that brings me to probably my favorite shirt. Shoot, I don't think I have the picture to show you guys, but somebody actually had a custom shirt made of a NASCAR with me in the driver's seat hanging out and Roscoe hanging out the side window. And Wendy made this shirt. She's made a number of shirts over the different years at the convention and always surprises me with them. So just a super cool shirt. I love it. I love seeing it. And that's my favorite shirt. I wish I had that one. I'll have to find that one and show it at some point. The first pitch, I got to throw a first pitch. I always want to throw a first pitch. And the hosts of the convention in New Hampshire a couple years ago allowed that to happen. In fact, I have a couple photos I can share. But it was for a minor league game. And I was super excited to do this because it was something I had always wanted to do. So let me share this. So this was obviously for the pitch. That's me with the ball, which they didn't let me keep. I was so sad. I wanted to keep the ball. And my first pitch. So kind of a bucket list item that I was able to check off because of a sweepstakes convention. So huge shout out and thanks to them because they made it happen. They asked me if I wanted to do it. So definitely ranks up there. In Boston, I got to go see Fenway. A lot of you know I'm trying to see all the ballparks. I have a handful left, but I've been able to see Atlanta, Boston, Fenway, and Arizona at national conventions for the first time. But Boston was always, on I think it's on most people's list if they're trying to do this. And it happened to be against the Yankees. So to see a Boston Yankee game at Fenway, that was definitely pretty cool. When I went to Orlando, one of the hosts of Orlando had saved all the signage from the various sweepstakes. Like you go into a supermarket and you see it sitting there. He had saved hundreds of these. He actually had a storage unit just to save these because he wanted to run the 25th convention and put these out. And they were all along the perimeter of the room. It was super cool because people went by him and you would remember the sweepstakes. Maybe you won the sweepstakes. You take pictures with them. But that was one of the wow moments for me for a convention. Again, these conventions are just unbelievable special to me, to other sweepers. I've made a lot of lifelong friendships over the years that I still see these people every year. Maybe I even been on vacation. A lot of them I've been fortunate enough to be invited on trip wins with them, or I've invited them on a trip win. So you share that passion for sweepstakes and trips. You also see that maybe there's group trip wins and you see some of these same people on those as well. So definitely recommend them. Go check them out, make friends. Meeting people at a sweepstakes convention is much more different than online, even though like iWin has an amazing community in Discord. And a lot of them socialize online that, they've never met these people in person, but then they do, or they make an effort to. So it's really cool, but that's what I have for you. Can't wait to see what Vegas has in store next week. I look forward to seeing so many of you there. Please come up, introduce yourself, take a photo, whatever you want. I'm here to chat with you. Don't feel you're bothering me or interrupting me. Now, like if I'm on a heater on the blackjack table or something, yeah, don't bother. But other than that, you see me walking around, by all means, come up, talk to me. I want to meet you. It's a very important reason why I go to the convention. So look forward to seeing you there. And hopefully, if we can't make Vegas, maybe think about going to Little Rock next year. August 7th through 10th. Details will be up on the iWin website in the coming weeks. They are just finalizing the hotel info as well as their website. So see you next week. Talk to you guys soon.